All right. Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Waterlogged, a bunch of streams where I'm basically talking about my experience with depression, anxiety, and how I have succeeded and failed to handle both, and occasionally how much more difficult having autism has made those for me. So, first, when I was a kid, everything seemed great, which of course, yeah, you're a kid. The world seems amazing and new and wonderful because you're a kid. You don't necessarily know better, and no one's really going to say, nah, the world's terrible, unless they really want to crush your hopes and dreams and spirit. However, I got my dreams and hopes crushed fairly early. I got bullied a lot, as many people do, and it kind of stuck in my head. I got so used to people telling me you're awful just because I was there, just because, even just because I made the slightest mistake. Not anything severe, not anything worth punishing someone over, just a little mistake. Like I bumped into someone, or I said someone's name wrong. And eventually, I started turtling up and isolating myself. I had some friends, but I mostly just kept to myself, reading books, avoiding other people, which is not the best way to go about these things. And when I graduated, I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no idea what I was doing. I still technically don't really have any idea what I'm doing, but I'm keeping at it. I'm not just going to give up because I've got to hold on. I've got to keep trying. That's just how it is. That's just how the world is that we live in. Doesn't mean I can't take a minute to just step back, relax, and try and heal or improve, like on my own. But it's not, or at least in the time that I've been around, it's not something people look at you and think, oh, okay, I understand. It's something they look at you and think, what's wrong with him? Why isn't he just doing things? Why can't he? It's one of the biggest issues I have with my aunt, my youngest aunt, because her mindset of, oh, you're feeling terrible? Well, be active. You'll feel so much better. No, that's not how it works for me. So, a lot of the depression I have comes from this feeling of futility. And the same for anxiety. My biggest trigger for depression and anxiety are the sensation of futility. This also applies to games, which really sucks when some of the games I enjoy have the most asininely impossible to counter. Some people play games to have fun. Some people play them because they want to feel better. than other people because they beat someone so fast or ruined their day or made them rage quit, whatever. And those people are genuinely sad, in my opinion. I feel bad for them. And I feel bad that they don't think there are other ways, other things you can do, ways to try and improve. And to be honest, I didn't think anything would get better for myself either. A memory that sticks out the most to me is a good number of years ago. I had a massive panic attack. Police had been called to my house several times before because of noise complaints due to me having panic attacks before. And every time they came over and shamed me because police, every single job that requires someone to be checked on, they dump on the police. There is no mental health division. It's just a bunch of people given like maybe a month of training and given a gun, being told, "Okay, person's having is freaking out, go handle it." And what did they do? What they're taught, which is basically slap anyone who's a potential threat in cuffs. I mean, it's good when the police do their job right, but in my area, that was not my experience. There was like one time a cop was being nice to me. And even then, he was just politely and calmly and kindly shaming for for like freaking out, quote unquote, freaking didn't help. But at the very least, he tried to be nice about it. That was good. That was nice. And it just the incident I'm referring to, they called my dad was going after me over how I need to have a plan and need to get shit done. Why don't I just do things? 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 Why don't you just do things? Why don't you just do things? Why don't you just do things? I don't get why you just won't do things. I don't get why you just won't do things. And I couldn't, I just turned around, stood there shaking and shouting with pain and anger and fear and misery. I don't fucking know. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, Dad. Is that what you want me to say? I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea if I'm ever going to get a job because I keep applying and no one ever gives me a chance. I still haven't gotten a job. I'm going to be almost at 10 years that no one has hired me because that's literally all I have for a reason why they won't. Just, especially since, as far as I know, I don't have a criminal record. And the only time, jumping too far ahead. So eventually, my mom comes over and tries to tell me you need to calm down. And what do? They have Anna, my bitch older sister, call the police. My mom's like, call the police. He needs to calm down. You do not call the police to calm someone down. You call the police to drag someone away or to get someone away. You do not call the police to calm someone down. Firstly, that's a waste of their time. Second, it's not what they're trained to do. Thirdly, even though they are, or at least you'd hope they are trained to de-escalate the situation, if someone is having a panic attack, talking down to them does not de-escalate the goddamn situation. Just makes it worse. Because what does someone who's falling apart want the most? They want to be heard. They want their pain, their sorrow, their fear, their misery, their anger to be acknowledged and accepted. Not as, okay, whatever, move on, but as, okay, you're angry at me. You were feeling absolutely miserable because of what I've said or the topic of what we were just talking about. Let's try and work things out. And above all, someone having a panic attack, they don't need to be calmed down. They need to be treated with respect, talked to calmly, and even quietly. And if they cannot handle you talking to them, that doesn't mean keep talking. That doesn't mean keep badgering them, try and get them to move. No. You can wait to walk to the fucking kitchen because the hallway's blocked, because they collapsed and they literally cannot move, because they are literally a broken rag doll at this point, because they are just so emotionally damaged right now that they cannot even muster enough energy to move. You don't go, I need to get to the kitchen, I need to get to the kitchen, I need to get to the kitchen. No. You leave them alone. If you need to hover around them impatiently, don't fucking hover around them impatiently. Sit down. Talk to them. Even if it's quiet. And if they need you to be quiet, okay, be quiet. But ask them if they want you to go. And if they say no, that means that they cannot handle you talking to them. But they need you there. They need to know that they are not alone, that they have not been abandoned, because they are extremely emotionally vulnerable, they are extremely mentally vulnerable, and they need every single shred of support that they can get right there and then. The police offer none of that. So, skipping forward, I'm telling my mom off for about telling me to calm down because I'm sick and tired of dad constantly on my ass about everything when I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. No one has or will ever help me, is what I said at the time. I'm in a much better space now. But so there's some dispute I have with that past statement from myself, but there are other parts of it that I cannot entirely refute, unfortunately. So, what happened? So what do I go off? Not for more. I'm shouting about I'm sick and tired of him and his crap, his holier than thou bullshit, when he's always hiding behind his beer, his book, and his bomb. Now, to be honest, and this is after California legalized weed. Excuse me. I never had any problem with them smoking weed. When he was drunk, the worst thing I have to remember about my dad is that Oftentimes, he was at his most fatherly to me when he was drunk, because he was goofy, funny, dumbass drunk, not angry drunk, or sad drunk, or scary drunk. And it still makes me sad. But I didn't have a problem with him smoking weed. He was calmer. He was more safe, more cognizant, and his blood pressure was improving as well. Partly, I think, because of the smoking weed, but also partly because he was working on keeping a more level head, and and painting was helping with that actually as well. This is painful for me to talk about because I miss him. He's my dad, and but he was always hot using his Bible, saying he used to say quotes from it to justify his ill behavior. I remember one time his man told him, "I'm not your slave." He, he pulled out the Bible and pointed out a passage that literally said, "Obey your mother and father as if you were their slave." Well, guess what? Let's take a look at that from the phrasing. As if you were. That does not mean you are. It means that you should be quick and immediate to respond, and that you should just take care of it. But it doesn't mean that you should act as if you were their slave, because you are not. It means you should respond in a similarly prompt and efficient manner, and respectful, but not because you have no other choice. But he was a vapid drunk by this time. And it was his last year of life. I remember I'd get a ride home, or when I was in high school, and he'd be bringing home a pack of beer almost every day, and it would be gone by the next. He was just drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking. And then I collapsed, and he actually called them. Anna wasn't able to make the call, but she was told to. Dad called. And I'm standing there, and I was like shaking so much with this mug in my hand that I actually managed to shake the handle loose. The mug didn't break, but it was shook loose from the handle and it fell on the ground. But eventually, I was utterly drained, and I just collapsed in a heap. I couldn't move. All I could do was cry, howl, shudder, and bawl. Then the police came over. They talked to my twin sister. I just remembered my older sister wasn't there. But they talked to my twin sister. They talked to my mom. And they talked to my dad. And what I didn't know at the time was that they actually had kept on trying to convince them to press charges against me for having a fucking panic attack because my dad somehow got some cut on his forehead. And no one ever believed that I never hit or touched him. I never even came within 3 feet of him. And yet somehow he's got this mark on his head. And they insist, oh, it must have been him. To this day, my mother still believes that, oh, I must not have been aware of what it meant. No, I was perfectly damn aware of how far away from him I was. Hell, actually, I think I wasn't even less than 4 feet away from him. So they come over, and then one of them comes over to talk to me. He's talking all low. And at this point, I am in a horrible state. I'm utterly broken, like a worn out marionette with its strings all snipped. I can't move. I've got this broken off handle of a mug just lying in my hand. I can't even curl my fingers. Most I can do is like maybe shift my arm a little at most. But I can't really move at all, actually. And so he's talking to me. He's not certainly not talking to me like a person, really. But then at some point, he's telling me about how, hey, need you to let go of that mug handle. Need you to let go of that mug handle. And he keeps on pressuring me to do this. And he's a fucking cop, so I know, oh, regardless of whether I can or can't, I'm going to be, I'm going to get it hurt somehow, or he's going to do something to me if I'm unable to. And so I'm literally lying there, unable to move, trying my hardest to shift my hand so that so that the handle can fall out because I literally cannot move my hand at all. I cannot lift my arms. I can't pick anything up. I can't let anything go. I can't put anything down. And he's just freaking me and stressing me the fuck out because he won't fucking let it go that I've got a mug handle in my hand. And he's like, I don't remember what it was he said, but it was something along the lines of, you not put down mug handle, me will use force on you to make you. Which, of course, a cop is going to fucking do that. When they can't get their way, resort to force, resort to scare tactics. Which is such a superb way to treat someone who is having a panic attack, after all. It's not. So, finally, I managed to get it out of my hand. I'm now even sweatier than I was before, and to give you a picture, by this point, my shirt was thoroughly soaked in sweat from all the stress I had just gone through. Like literally, I might as well have dropped it in the pool and then taken it out after making sure it was thoroughly soaked in it. I was basically dripping in sweat. And then he's like, "Can you give me your hand?" I can't. I can't even fucking talk. I can't even fucking respond to this dickhead. But I finally managed to shift my arm back at least a little bit because I can't move it anymore. And he just keeps on pressuring me. He keeps on pressuring me to put my knee arm behind my back, to keep me doing things. Just pressure, 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 pressure. I don't matter. Only compliance matters. And that's why cops are such shit. When they're doing their job right, Yes, it's about compliance, but they will work with you. They will talk to you like a human being, and they will try their best to make sure not only that they're following their job to the letter, but that you are okay. Even if you're or like really shitty, if you behave yourself, they will work with you with that. They're certainly like if you're being arrested, they're certainly not going to just drop you off at home. But they will at the very least be kinder towards you and more willing to listen to what you have to say if you have anything to say, even if it doesn't change the outcome. But finally, my arm's back and like been rotated because that's the most I can do because again I can't move it. I literally can't move it. All I can do is like try and rotate it what little I can because I literally cannot lift or move it. Finally, get it back enough. He grabs it, puts it by, and he's like, "All right, now give me your other arm. I know he's going to cuff me." And I start freaking out because this guy's been pressuring me this whole time, and he's just stressed me the fuck out. And now it's like, oh, like what? I'm having a panic attack. I just had a panic attack. I didn't hurt anyone. I just shook so hard that a mug fell out of my hand and broke off its handle and fell out of my hand, and I collapsed. No one's been hurt, at least aside from me emotionally. But he was like, and he grabbed my hand, and again, I'm too fucking broken. I cannot move my body. Literally cannot walk. I cannot stand up. I cannot sit up straight. I cannot bend over, roll, whatever. The most I can do is slightly rotate my limbs. What little bit I can, because anything that requires me to actually move, like actual weight in my body, no energy. Puts my app back and cuffs me too tight. I mean, I know why they do this. It's it's a mental attack. They're definitely trying to do this. It's because with that one, just with the cup, even just one of them being just a little bit too tight, it puts stress on your brain. It means that you have to work harder to keep calm, and you're more likely to act. And if you can't, you're more likely to act erratically or behave erratically, or maybe be more compliant because they're putting pressure on you through just this one little thing, having a cuff be a little too tight. It's insanity. But when you do this to someone having a fucking panic attack who has autism, which just makes every single bit of input they get that much more, one notch too tight on a wrist may as well be trying to literally squeeze it off, like you're trying to tie a bag around it so tight that it slices the hand off. And that's what I would compare it to. It was incredibly stressful, incredibly terrifying, incredibly painful. But all I could even muster up enough energy in my lungs to say was a barely audible, too tight, wailing, and no. They were like, but by that point, they were like, all right, I need you to get up. I can't fucking stand up. I'm in the middle of a fucking panic attack. There is no energy to move the weight of my body in any of my limbs. I'm like, you gotta cooperate. You, you gotta cooperate. Just more pressure on the fact that they're gonna try that they're threatening me with some kind of punishment if I'm not perfectly compliant, despite the fact I am literally incapable of fucking moving my body, so I cannot comply with their demand that I stand up. But they end up lifting me and dragging me out, telling me, you gotta walk, you gotta walk. I can't fucking walk. I cannot move my limbs. And then they take me out. They drag me to the car, put me in the back. My twin sister's upset. My mom's upset. And my dad, he's sitting on this nice little rock pile that he set up from rocks he'd collected over the years. And he was just sitting there, head in his hands, crying, saying, "It's not right. It's not right. It's not right." And yet he was the one who called the police. If he did not want that to happen, he should not have called them. I know it wasn't his intention. I know that much. He may be dead, but he is a good man. And he isn't going to do anything to hurt any of us intentionally. Even though he's gone, he never tried to do anything to intentionally hurt us. So they've put me in the back. I think someone's in the front of the car. And I keep trying, I keep saying, "It's too tight, too tight, too tight, too tight." It just miserable. I am utterly broken. I cannot move. And they are, and even, and while I'm in the car, what is the other officer trying to do? He's continuing to try and pressure my mother to file charges against me for having a goddamn panic attack where no one was injured. No one was in danger. But they still did it. Finally, the dickhead gets the clue. Okay, okay. I, I can't get you to file charges. What do you want me to do? So what happens is my parents get this dickhead who is constantly trying to get at them to file charges against me for having a panic attack that resulted in no one actually being hurt. That resulted in no one actually being hurt. Instead, they took me to the nearby hospital and put me in their mental ward. Again, no energy. The whole ride, I didn't know where I was going. I thought a jail or something, and all just because I fucking broke. Because that's how society likes to handle its members. If you break, you are worthless. If you break, you're a threat. Even if you wouldn't hurt a fly, broken or not, we've got to put you away somewhere. Because it was more than evident by the fact they kept trying to get my parents to file charges against me for literally having a panic attack that didn't cause anyone to get hurt, that they were trying to reach some kind of quota or some bullshit. Try and pad their resume, make themselves look good. Fucking jackasses. Finally, we're there. They tell me to get out of the car. I can't move. I tell them I can't move. And the cop that was actually being nice to me, despite the fact he was pressuring me the whole time, he was talking kindly to me. Still, fuck him for constantly pressuring me with the threat of potential punishment for being uncompliant when I literally was physically incapable of complying with any sort of physical demand he made of me. And guess what? I was like, can't move. Because again, basically no energy. And if you're not aware, a lot of times when someone has a panic attack, they can barely string two words together a lot of the time. And so communication is basically non existent. Well, no, not basically non existent. Difficult, very simplistic. And if it's bad enough, impossible. If it's because they can only say one word at a time, or because they literally cannot even talk because of how damaged they're at the moment. Or at least, let me reiterate, this is my personal experience with panic attacks, with depression, with anxiety, with having autism, making all of that so much worse. And I hate every time I have to acknowledge it. So, he's like, all right. And he lifts me up. He's actually being kind of gentle now. Lifts me up a bit, helps me out. I can't walk. They get a wheelchair, wheel me in, and put me in a chair, put the wheelchair away. And now I'm back to my, you know what, no. I have a bad habit of injecting comedy to cope with trauma. But this is a serious story I'm telling. I'm not going to inject drama here. I'm going to inject comedy here. But once I'm seated in the chair, I'll be all right. I'll be right back. And all I can do is continue saying what I basically was saying the whole car ride over. Too tight. Too tight. Just one notch. Just one notch looser. Just one notch looser. Please. Finally, he's gotten me checked in. Or at least helped me to get checked in. It's like, all right, we're almost done. Is there anything you need? Water? Like, yes, and the right cuff. It's just, it's too tight. Just one notch loose, please. As again, not quite that articulate, which I know. That's articulate, dude? No, that's barely even talking. Give me a break. I was still going through a panic attack at the time. Now on the way out of it, but still in the middle of it. Still in. Could barely communicate at all. But he heard, and miracle of miracles. Blessed be God on high. Thank you, God. He got the right cuff. Yep. I couldn't really lean, but I could like shift with what little energy had returned to my body now. He got the right cuff, unlocked it so that he could loosen it by one notch, then put it back, and they were right just fine. And all of a sudden, all is right with the world, and I start falling apart again because the relief of that one notch looser in this utterly destroyed emotional and mental state I was in was beyond euphoria. Well, emotionally euphoric. Because this one horrible thing that was stressing me out so much, all of a sudden, it's gone. This person helped me. I know he's the one who put me in cuffs, but the fact that he was willing to loosen it by one notch meant so much. And it's like, all right, can you finally? It's all done. All right, can you stand up for me? I'm trying to move. I can barely lift myself because I have, again, basically no energy. They helped me up into a wheelchair because, again, no energy. I literally cannot move my own weight properly. What little energy I have, it's not enough to stand up, not enough to lift my arms, just enough to move a little bit forward or backward. And they get me signed in. They bring me up, change my clothes, make me give a urine sample because see if there's anything in my system. The guy gives me some water. And then I'm up in the mental ward. I'm in a change of clothes, specifically for the ward, patient outfit. Not the one you think where it's like open back, but proper shirt and trousers. And they put me in a room. And it's cold, it's dark, and it's lonely. And I have never felt more isolated in my entire life. Ever. It was horrible. And at that point, I was so angry and so hurt by my father and by the fact that he had called the police on me for having a panic attack. I didn't want anything to do with him at the time. I wanted to purge any shred of him from my name, from my life. First day of the visitors are allowed to see me. My mom comes. My dad comes too, and he brings my stuffed pandemonium. I'm not allowed to bring him in. And they ask if I want to see my parents, and I'm like, I do not want to see my dad. And so he waits out there, knowing, and he's hurt. He's hurt by what happened. And it really sank in finally just how much damage his alcoholism was doing to everyone, and especially to me, because I think it's partly because I'm his only son, but also because no matter what happened, no matter how drunk he got, I was always trying to help him and support him and defend him. because he's not that bad. He's not that bad. He can be better. I know he can. And finally, after all these years, I not only didn't want to have any to talk to him ever again, I wanted him and his entirety, the entirety of his existence, gone from my life. Because he was always using his Bible to hide from, it felt like he was always using his Bible to hide from the world and his own doubts. Always using beer to numb himself to the fear and sadness and pain he had, even the smallest amount. And while I didn't have a problem with his bong, I was using that to, honestly, you know what? No, I'm not going to count that. I never had a problem with him smoking weed. But he waited out there every day that he and my mom came to visit me. With my stuffed pandemonium. And he talked with them, and he quit it drinking cold turkey. He'd even gone down to his local to the liquor store he always went to, and said, "Hey, I can't be coming here anymore. My drinking has become a serious problem for me and my family, and I need you to stop serving me anymore." Or at least in, for what, I don't know what exactly he said, but basically, he was basically saying goodbye to his friend, which I'm glad he was friends with the liquor store owner, but it's not a good sign when you walk into a liquor store and they call you their best customer and you're friends with them because you're in there so often buying alcohol of any kind. It means you have a problem. It's not the liquor store owner. It's that, or even that they're friends with you, but just how often you've had to go in there to buy drinks, and especially with how many you buy, that you are their that you are friends with them and their best customer. Finally, after talking with a therapist, different from the one I'd been seeing at the time, who was helping me with my depression and anxiety, I finally was at a point where I could not move past and forgive him for what he'd done. He'd hurt me too deeply for me to just let it go. And that when I came and I told him, and I said, he can come in, but I don't want to see him just yet. He can come in. I told him, back facing, that when I came in there, I was so hurt and so angry with him that I did not want to see him ever again. I didn't want to talk to him ever again. And I didn't want him in any degree in my life ever again, and was even going to change my name to remove, because my first middle name is my father's first name. I was going to change my name to remove his name from mine. And that he hurt me that deeply. And that since then, I've talked with a therapist. I've been thinking about how I'm feeling. Well, I can't just move past what happened and what you've done. I know that you've been actively making a change. Mom's told me you quit drinking cold turkey or talking with someone. You're trying to be better. And that if he's willing to work hard to be better, then I'm willing to give him a second chance. And then we hugged, and I was crying, and he was crying because he's my dad, and I'm his only son. I went home not long after, found they'd gotten some thing for my bed to supposedly make it comfier so I can sleep a little better. And that sure is. I was so afraid, so anxious, so miserable, and thought so little of myself that I was, and even now still am, at least feeling so, so lost and so worthless. I'm in a better space now, so I don't really feel so worthless anymore. Mostly got my depression under control. I mean, my anxiety under control. And to a lesser extent, my depression as well, but still hits me hard. And even when I have a rare moment where I'm not dealing with my depression or my anxiety, I am unfortunately still having to cope with the fact that even without the depression, even without the anxiety, I'm a very lonely person. I was gaslit by my first girlfriend, and my, my first real relationship, my first proper girlfriend, we broke up around December last year on good terms. So we're still like with each other, but both times it was long distance, and I don't I'm scared because I can connect with as many people as I like, but no matter how much I connect with them, what I'm scared of is that no matter how much I connect with them, that I'll never find someone who has that connection with me. That no matter how much I connect, they will not. But it happened with my first, with my ex, and we're still friends. Hell, I'd argue it even technically happened with my gaslighting ex, my gaslighting first ex, because she, at the very least, thought I was good enough and quality enough that it would get the demon parasite I refuse to refer to by any sort of feminine pronouns something to get it off of her back. But that's the thing about parasites. No matter how much you give them, they always want more. Enough is never enough. Good is never good enough. Perfect is always just shy of, and therefore not enough. But I'll be telling that story at a later time. Not today. And besides, it's not really relevant to me handling depression or anxiety or how I've failed to handle either. The story I've just shared, the memory I've just shared, is a point where I was bottling everything up again, and I couldn't keep all that anxiety, all the fear I was dealing with under control, and I broke. Great first start, man. Waterlogged, episode 1. How to how to panic attacks. Why police don't get it and should not be called to deal with them. Miss you, Dad. Miss you. Next episode, I think I'll go over how utterly crippling being gaslit can be. I'm just going to go over the aftermath, though, not the whole entire story. Anyways, this is Obi Doby Zoomer signing off. Thank you for attending Waterlogged. Let's hope we can keep floating instead of sinking to the bottom. Thank you for coming.